Hello you beauties, welcome back to my second channel, welcome to Jack in the Books. Today we are very much going to be living up to the name of this channel because we are in the books. There are so many books. This is the most absurdly huge book haul that I have ever done and will ever do because basically, so about 6 months ago, I started making this notes page on my phone where every time I was given a book recommendation in the comments section of my video, every time I was watching a YouTube video and I saw a booktuber recommend something that sounded awesome, or saw a book on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere that I thought sounded good, I wrote it down. And then a couple of weeks ago, I just bought all of them. I just, literally every single one, I just bought them because, to be 100% transparent with you, basically this channel was monetized, which I never ever expected. The support on this channel has been off the chart, like absolutely insane. So thank you for being here. We're nearly at 50,000 subscribers, which blows my little brain. And so I decided that I would reinvest that money into the channel and into my main channel as well, and basically buy a metric shit ton of books so that I have stuff to read and so that I have books to make content about, because my content is very much about books at this point. So I just wanted to add that and be fully transparent, just because this is not a normal number of books to buy. Most of these are secondhand, I will add that. I'm thinking I might do a whole separate video about books, where to buy secondhand books and find cheap or free books. So we'll get to that another day, but most of these were from AB Books. Unfortunately, AB Books is associated with Amazon. I think Amazon own it. However, at this point, obviously, it's a pandemic. We can't go to charity shops and stuff. I felt like it was the best way of mass ordering books. So without further ado, this is the book haul. Okay, the first book is this one. This is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have finished this book already and I loved it. This is a solid 5 stars from me. I've barely given any 5 stars so far this year on my Goodreads account where I log all my books. But this one I thought was phenomenal. I love Hollywood glamour. I love celebrity culture. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm kind of weirdly invested in celebrity culture, and this book is basically about a Hollywood starlet who is kind of towards her older years in life, and she asks someone to write her memoir and finally reveal the secret behind all of her scandals and her mishaps and her publicity and all those stories and all her films. And it's incredible, and there's a fantastic twist at the end, which I personally did not see coming, and I thoroughly enjoyed every second of this book. I ate it up. The next book is The Adventures of Tintin. I have to say, I've never consumed any Tintin content. I feel like it was maybe slightly before my time, perhaps? I don't know, actually. Tintin is just not something I ever really came into contact with as a child, but I'm working on a YouTube video at some point in the future, which will include this book. So, The Adventures of Tintin. Next, we have this book. This is called Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, a novel. I think this has been turned into a film, hence this cover. I'm gonna say something controversial here. Maybe it's not that controversial, I don't know. I hate movie tie-in covers. I hate them with a burning passion. Like, I don't wanna see real people on the cover of my books. I wanna see a beautiful illustration or some sort of beautiful cover art. This doesn't do it for me. And so when a book has been turned into a TV show or film, I'll always try to buy the original first edition cover secondhand if I can. So anyway, this is about a boy whose father died on 9/11, and then he finds a key in his father's wardrobe, I think. And then he basically is trying to work out what lock in New York City that key unlocks. But will it take him any closer to or even further from his lost father? Very intrigued to read this. The next book is this one. This is called The Circle. I get the vibe that this is very much 1984 meets Brave New World. So I'm getting dystopia energy from this. Dystopian literature is a genre that I think made me fall in love with books and reading. I loved things like 1984, The Handmaid's Tale, which is like the original dystopia, and so I get similar vibes from this, although I haven't heard any good reviews, which just makes me more curious to read it. So the blurb says, "The circle runs everything. All your internet activity in one easy, safe and visible place. No wonder it is now the world's most powerful and influential company. So when May Holland lands a job at its glittering California campus, she knows she's made it. But the more her ideals and ambitions become aligned with those of the circle, the closer she comes to discovering a sinister truth at the heart of an organization seeking to remake the world in its image." Interesting. I get the vibe that maybe The Circle, the TV show on Channel 4 and Netflix, is inspired by this book in the same way that Big Brother was inspired by 1984 by George Orwell, but I don't know for sure. I know that this has been made into a film. I don't know whether it's out yet or not. I think Emma Watson is in it. That's a tangent. I mean, if Emma Watson endorses it, then I want to read it, and that is a rule I will stand by. The next book is this one. This is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller is the survivor of the Stanford sexual assault case, and she's coming forward. I think originally when she came forward and exposed this story, she remained anonymous, but now she is putting her name to the story, putting her face to the story. And in this instance, the fact that her face is on the cover is so important. So I take back what I said about the film, the movie tie-ins. This is so vital for her to be on the cover of this book. So I actually bought this as a gift for my girlfriend because I know that she loves reading memoirs, and I've heard that this is so powerful and important to read. But I also thought that it was important for me as a bloke to read this, and also I've only seen women recommend this and talk about it, and I actually think that as men we should be reading things like this and exposing ourselves to these stories and understanding female perspectives in this way, and I am going to be reading it. The next book is this one. This is Notes on a Crocodile. This has been translated, which again is something I'm trying to read more of. I'm trying to read more perspectives, more cultures, and this is set in late 1980s Taipei, which is the capital of Taiwan, and it says it's about discovering love, friendship and artistic affinity while hardly studying at Taiwan's most prestigious university. And that cover, chef kiss. Another absolutely stunning cover is this one. This is The Housekeeper and the Professor. This has been recommended to me more times than I can count. Genuinely, I get told I need to read this constantly. I actually think this is about maths, which is interesting. Because of a head injury 17 years ago, the professor only has an 80-minute memory. Although he may not remember what he had for breakfast, his mind is alive with elegant mathematical equations from the past. Listen, I've never heard maths referred to as elegant, but I'm intrigued to find out how it could be. And also, you know, I think it's important to challenge our ways of understanding certain things. So for me, maths is really dull. But I think it will be really interesting to read a story of how maths could be one person's sign of hope, and something that they really cling on to and grasp. So, The Housekeeper and the Professor. This one is called Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls. This one sounds like a hoot, if you'll pardon the owl pun. This is, I think, a collection of narrative essays, which basically, to my mind, means that each essay is going to be speaking about something, you know, like a moral or philosophical dilemma or some sort of observation of life, but it's going to be written, instead of in essay format, it's going to be written as a fictional kind of fable or allegory. So this was recommended by Ruby Granger, who I would trust with my life. I love that woman so much. We used to host a podcast together, and she's just a fantastic friend and inspires me every day. So when she recommended this book, I was like, I need to read it, and so that I shall do. Speaking of my podcast co-hosts recommending things, I'm pretty sure that my friend Jade, of the Unjaded variety, Unjaded Jade, recommended this book. This is called The Secret Life of Bees. I think that the idea of the story is that there's a girl who believes that when she was 4 years old, she accidentally caused the death of her mother. And I think this book uncovers that and unpacks that and maybe finds out that that's not the case. And I think also a major theme of this book is racial tension and racism. And so I think it will be a powerful read. Hate the cover though. Absolutely hate that cover. What is that about? This looks like it's a rom-com, and I don't think that's the vibe of the book at all. So yeah, really wished this had a nicer cover. And I think with the idea of bees, you could do so much. Like, you could have the most gorgeous cover. And this is what you went for? That's what you chose? It's a small qualm, but listen, it upset me. This one is another book that I've been really, really highly recommended by viewers. This is 100 Years of Solitude. I know that so many of you are going to be absolutely buzzing that I've picked this up. This is set in South America. I've barely read any literature from that part of the world, so very excited to get started with that, and I'll let you know what I think. Oh, also, I think I officially knew I was a booktuber when people stopped saying come to Brazil and they started saying read Brazilian literature. And this is often one of the books that South American viewers ask me to read, and so yeah, I'll let you know. Oh, this is a book that I just finished today. This is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Yes, I'm a little bit late on this one. I mean, you know, she was dead before I was alive, so I guess I could only have been late, but yeah, I actually thought this was my second favourite Austen novel ever. I loved this. Emma is my top, but I really enjoyed this book. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. At the beginning of the Pandemi Lovato, I started listening to Jane Austen audiobooks, and Northanger Abbey was the only one and Mansfield Park. I haven't read Mansfield Park, but Northanger Abbey was one of the only ones I hadn't yet indulged in, and I finally have. And John Thorpe as a character made me more angry than I could possibly explain. Jane Austen is so good at writing a character that you just hate, like a character that makes your blood boil. And you know, I bow down to Jane Austen. She's so talented, and the fact that she can craft a character that is just so deplorable and easy to despise is a real talent. You know, sometimes I find myself quite liking the villain, like Iago in Othello by Shakespeare. I was like, he's kind of bants though. He's so completely evil, but it's kind of funny to watch. This John Thorpe in this book is the categorical worst. But yeah, I'm reading that for a video which should be out on my channel, on my main channel, in the next 2 weeks, I think. So look out for that. Another book I bought for that video is this one. This is Another Time by W.H. Auden. When I did my dissertation, I wrote my dissertation on Christopher Isherwood, who was a lifelong friend of Auden. And so I've read a lot about Auden without really reading much of his work. This is a collection of poetry. Next, we have a writer that I have fallen in love with. I feel like over the course of some of my recent main channel videos, people have been seeing my obsession with Murakami begin and blossom. So I've read Norwegian Wood and Kafka on the Shore, and both of those books I thought were stunning. They're so elegant, and the worlds that Murakami creates are so rich and vivid and saturated, and this is what I talk about when I talk about running. I quite like running, and I think this is kind of like almost a memoir of Murakami's life. Now I'm pretty sure Murakami runs 10 kilometers every single day, which is just obscene. Like, that is ridiculous and so batshit crazy, but I love it. I love when people have those quirks and those things that they do as a hobby, which seems so extreme to other people, but to them it just makes sense and it structures their lives, I guess. For me, running is something that I've always been around because my mum found so much love for running, and my parents ran the marathon together, the London Marathon, which was probably the proudest moment of my whole entire life. Watching those two run the marathon was insane. So I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this book and I can pass it on to them, and hopefully they'll enjoy reading it too. So again, I'll let you know. The next book is this one. This is A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. I really enjoyed this book. I have read it, and it's all about Hemingway's time living in Paris. And the best part of this book is when he talks about meeting F. Scott Fitzgerald and his time being in close proximity to F. Scott Fitzgerald. He talks about F. Scott Fitzgerald in the most beautiful way. If someone spoke about you like that, they're in your life forever. You know, that is precious. And I really enjoyed reading this. Again, that's kind of like a bit of a memoir. It's quite autobiographical. Bit of a different one now. This is Anne of Green Gables. This is about an orphan, and I'm pretty sure, no, I'm 100,000,000% sure, I know that this inspired or is the source material for Anne with an E on Netflix. I haven't watched it, but I am going to, but I wanted to read this first because I'm really intrigued by the way that things are adapted by Netflix, for example, from books. So I try to read the books first as much as I possibly can. So that's why I've got that one. This one is Man and Superman, which on the cover it says Bernard Shaw. And I was like, are George Bernard Shaw and Bernard Shaw two different people? But they're not. I had a bit of a crisis, like, oh my god, my whole life has been a lie. But actually, I googled it and it's the same person. So anyway, Man and Superman is a play. I know nothing about it, but it's one that I would love to read. I have a poster of classic book titles, and this is one of the only ones that I haven't yet got round to, and so I bought it. Next one is Call Me By Your Name. Of course, this is a very well-known film. This is the movie tie-in edition. You know how I feel about that, but I don't mind this one. This one's okay. I like that it's quite striking and bold and a big colour. It's not just one big face. Anyway, I have only seen the final 30 minutes of this film, which is like the sad bit. I went over to my girlfriend's house at university one time, and her housemates were just finishing up watching the film, so I sat and watched the final bit with them. I've also seen on YouTube, there's a video which I would highly recommend, which is the final scene of Call Me By Your Name, but with Fine Line by Harry Styles playing in the background, and it is heart-wrenching. Genuinely heart-wrenching. And I can never listen to the song Fine Line without thinking of this now. A movie I haven't seen the full thing of. Anyway, pretty sure this is about love and Italy and the summer, and I would very much like to read that. Next book is this one. This is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I'm very intrigued by Matt Haig because he wrote a lot of books in very quick succession, which sort of makes me question the quality of each one. I'm sure that people must be able to do that, but like it will definitely take me much longer than it takes him to write something of this length. So intrigued to read this. I'm pretty sure the idea behind the Midnight Library is that on the final day of this woman's life, she finds herself in a library and she can look at what her life would have been like had she made other choices and basically experience the different routes her life could have taken. Which is a cool concept. I really like that as a concept. So definitely will be giving this a shot and giving it a go, regardless of how many books Matt Haig seems to churn out. Also, sorry, I should say, I have read one of those books, which was Reasons to Stay Alive, which is non-fiction, and I thought it was phenomenal and so important and so powerful. So I am giving him a shot. Oops. Oh, this one is another... Well, I can't even pick it up. This one is another Hemingway. This is To Have and Have Not. I know absolutely nothing about this, but it was really cheap. It was like £1. And I thought since I was buying the other Hemingways, I might as well buy this one as well. That's as good a reason as any, right? Oh, this one is 84 Charing Crossroad. I feel like every person who makes videos about books adores this book. In fact, anyone who loves reading and loves books and loves bookshops will adore this book. I actually listened to this as an audiobook, which I would really recommend. Basically, it is a story about a woman in New York City corresponding with a bookshop in London. And you basically just read their letters back and forth to one another. And it's so charming and pure and wholesome and wonderful. And I would recommend this to any book lover ever. Fantastic book. And I just had to own a copy of it. Next book is this one. This is Boy Erased, a memoir of identity, faith, and family, with this exquisite gold foiling on the front. Love that for this book. Anyway, deeply embedded in church life in a small town, he's terrified and conflicted about his sexuality. So again, another interesting perspective that I would like to read. Next one is Lana Del Rey's poetry. This is Violet Bent Backwards Over the Grass, which I bought for my video reviewing bad celebrity poetry. This one, however, not bad. Actually, having said that, the haikus at the back of this book are bad. They are shite, actually. But the longer poetry that makes up the bulk of this book is sensational. It's a real triumph, and I enjoyed it very much, and I think it is worth the read, especially if you are a Lana Del Rey fan. But I think you get something different to the very refined music. You kind of get to see her construction lines. She includes some drafts of the poems right next to their kind of final complete versions. And I thought it was very vulnerable, and she's got a lot of control over the rhyme, the rhythm, and the meter. So I think she is actually a poet, and she knows it. Next we have Ready Player One. This is a kind of sci-fi book, I think. It's the year of 2044, and the real world has become an ugly place. We're out of oil, we've wrecked the climate, famine, poverty, and disease are widespread. Like most of humanity, Wade Watts escapes the depressing reality by spending his waking hours jacked into the Oasis, a sprawling virtual utopia where you can be anything you want to be. I think it's about virtual reality. Again, this has been made into a film. This is not something I would normally read, but I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit and read something a bit different and futuristic, and so Ready Player One, I'm going to give a go. Papillon is a book that I am holding. I don't know what it's about. Condemned for a murder he did not commit, 42 days after his arrival, he made his first break, travelling 1,000 grueling miles in an open boat. Recaptured, his spirit remained untamed. In 13 years, he made 9 amazingly daring escapes, including one from the notorious Devil's Island. So, I basically bought this because I did a video where I read all of the books that Harry Styles has recommended, and I think I missed one. I think I missed this one, because apparently his tattoo on his chest, the butterfly tattoo on his chest, is inspired by this book. She's a bulky one. I don't mean to fat shame. The writing is very, very small. Interesting. Okay, will I ever get around to reading that? I don't know, but at least I have it now. Maybe I'll end up doing a part 2 to that video in the future, and best believe this one will be in there. Next we have My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Dead Poets Society. I included both of these in my most recent main channel video, so go check it out if you want. It's on dark academia. This is one of the ultimate dark academia books and films. This is actually a novelization of the film, so I'd probably recommend you watch the film instead of read this book. But this is about an English teacher who just makes his class fall in love with poetry, which I can get behind any day of the week. And this one, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, is one woman's experience of depression and her kind of hibernation from the world. She sort of takes a real step back from the world to just recuperate and recover, and you feel like you're in her mind. It is so captivating. You really feel like you're in her head, and so I thought it was incredibly written. This is another chunky monkey. This is... Why do I say things like that? This is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. If, like me, over this pandemic you have consumed more daytime television than you ever thought imaginable, you will know that Richard Osman is one of the hosts of Pointless on the BBC, which is a show I would love to take part in. It is tremendous fun. In a peaceful retirement village, 4 unlikely friends meet up once a week to investigate unsolved murders. But when a brutal killing takes place on their very doorstep, the Thursday Murder Club find themselves in the middle of their first live case. This sounds like something I would have absolutely adored when I was in my early teens, and you know what? I want to go back to that place. I thought this sounded interesting, and Richard Osman is, you know, a celebrity whose writing I'm very intrigued to read. So again, with all of these, I'll let you know what I thought. If you do want to know what my kind of reviews are as and when they're happening, definitely do follow me on Goodreads. People always say they can tell when I'm working on a YouTube video when they see like a string of random books appear on my Goodreads read list. So yeah, if you want to be in the know, that's where to go. Well, that kind of rhymes. Anyway, Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I also have Letter to My Daughter by Maya Angelou. I haven't read anything by Maya Angelou before, but firstly, these two covers, exquisite, right next to each other. Love that for me, and for Maya. Think Letter to My Daughter is a letter to the daughter that Maya Angelou never actually had. This book reveals Maya Angelou's path to living well and living a life with meaning. I tried to say that so many times, I just could not get it out. But we've got there, we've done it. Told in her own inimitable style, this book transcends genres and categories. It's part guidebook, part memoir, part poetry, and a pure delight. Well, sign me the fuck up. Anyway, back to I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which is how we started here before I got sidetracked on that little tangent with the other book. Loving the world, she also knows its cruelty. As a black woman, she has known discrimination and extreme poverty, but also hope and joy, achievement and celebration. I seem to have picked lots of memoirs. I wonder whether, because we've been in this pandemic, I'm like wanting to hear stories from other people's lives, quite specifically. I don't know. Next book is this one. Oh, I bought this because it was really cheap. It's called American Dirt. It was dirt cheap when I bought it, and that's because it's been added to the Richard and Judy reading list, reading club. Do I follow Richard and Judy? No. To be honest, this was a spontaneous, last-minute, add to basket purchase. Lydia owns a bookshop in Acapulco and is married to a fearless journalist. Luca, their 8-year-old son, completes the family, but it only takes a bullet to rip them apart. You're gonna leave it there? Oh no. In a city in the grip of a drug cartel, friends become enemies overnight, and Lydia has no choice but to flee with Luca at her side. Oh wow. What country is this set in? Oh wait, it's called American Dirt. It must be America. That sounds really good. I'm glad I picked that one up, kind of by accident. Okay guys, we're getting there. Conversations with Friends, again, is a book that I listened to as an audiobook and I really wanted a physical copy. This is being turned into a series on BBC Three in the same way that Normal People is, and I thought they did a fantastic job with Normal People, so I'm intrigued to watch this one. I know that the guy who plays Nick is Joe Aldwich? Taylor Swift's boyfriend, and I thought that was really rogue casting. He looks nothing like Nick does in my head. He's way too young. I saw Nick as kind of being like, could be someone's dad kind of vibes. But I'm intrigued to watch that, and I just wanted to have a physical copy of that book. The next one is Circe. Oh my lord, did I love Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Song of Achilles is a retelling of the mythology behind Achilles. I assume this is the same sort of thing. This is the retelling of Circe. And I just felt like Madeline Miller had this incredibly accessible way of retelling these stories that I really enjoy learning about. So very, very excited by that one. How many books have I said I'm excited about? Well, all of them, that's why I bought them, huh? The next one is A Beast. This is A Little Life. I know that so many of you want me to read this book. My lovely friend Noelle said that it's a tough one to recommend because you need to know what someone has been through before you can expose them to such traumatic book. And my self-sabotaging brain was like, sign me up. So I think this book is going to break my heart. I think the writing looks incredibly small. Definitely going to need to wear my glasses for this one. But yeah, I am going to do a vlog where I read this for sure. And try and get over my big book fear because she is bulky. Okay, I've got 5 books left. One of them is this one. This is Clara and the Sun by Ishiguro. I was very kindly sent this really cool copy by Faber. So this one is actually gifted, but I was going to buy this anyway. I actually was trying to buy a signed copy, but I think I just forgot to ever get around to it. So thank you, Faber, for rectifying that issue for me. I think that Ishiguro is just one of my literary heroes. He's incredible. I love the way that he crafts worlds and perspectives that you may never have considered before. I loved Never Let Me Go. I had to read The Remains of the Day for my A-levels, and so I hated it at first because we were originally meant to study The Great Gatsby, and we were fuming that the English department had chosen a book that wasn't The Great Gatsby, but actually I really, really enjoyed The Remains of the Day. Guys, I am absolutely fuming! My camera battery died just as we were getting to the end of the video, and in the split second that you have seen, I've been to Aldi, I've cooked my dinner, and I've eaten my dinner, and now we're back. I think what I was saying is what Clara and the Sun is about. So this is a book about AI. In this it's AF, so an artificial friend. And AI terrifies me. I can't explain why. I have Siri turned off on my phone. I wouldn't buy myself an Alexa or Google Home or anything like that. It's just not for me. I do not judge anyone who does have those things. I completely appreciate that they're very, very useful. But I'm really intrigued to read a book exploring this idea. Ishiguro was dedicated to selling this damn book. I was seeing every day he was doing like 5 different events. And they were all really expensive, so I didn't get to go to any of them. Virtual events, obviously. But yeah, so he clearly believes in this book, and I am intrigued very much by it. So that's the next thing I am going to get started on. Okay, the only other book here that I didn't actually buy myself for this haul is this one, and this is Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. And I recently read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by the same author, which was gorgeous. It is exquisite, it is so poetic, it's a real treat for the eyeballs to read. However, I feel like this author will write my favourite book. It just wasn't that one. The plot I just felt wasn't captivating necessarily. Like, it could have ended at any point and it would have been fine. I thought the discussion of the diaspora and Vietnam and the sexuality element of that book was completely fascinating, but I just didn't feel like it was gripping. And so I think this author, because of the way that he writes, is so sublime. I know that he will write one of my favourite books of all time at some point. So I'm really glad to have found his writing. And it was a solid 4 out of 5 stars for me, completely. This is his poetry collection, and I'm really excited to read this. My girlfriend actually sent this to me as a surprise, which was so lovely. And yeah, because I loved his writing style so much, I think I'm going to really, really adore this collection of poems. Speaking of poetry, I'm just going to rattle through these really quickly because, like the Lana Del Rey book, I have made a whole video on them already, but this is a collection of celebrity poetry that I bought. So we have Gay James, don't know why I couldn't say that, by James Franco, Alicia Keys' Tears for Water, this one is by Bella Thorne and just terrible. Useless Magic by Florence Welch, and Halsey's collection of poetry, I Would Leave Me If I Could. What's it called? I Would Leave Me If I Could. I've spoken all about these extensively on my main channel, so if you want to see that video, head over there. And then we get to the final 3. So this is Confessions of a Mask. A Japanese teenager is overcome with longing for his male classmate. He imagines his body punctured with arrows, like the body of St. Sebastian in the painting that obsesses him. Over and over again, each night in his private fantasies, the objects of his lust are tortured, killed, and maimed. But in the rigid world of imperial wartime Japan, there is no place for transgressive desires. He must wear a false mask and hide his true nature, whatever the cost. That description is riveting and gripping and captivating, and so I think this is going to be a beautiful book. Then we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I read this and enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more at the beginning, and by the end I was kind of a bit done with the story. I thought it was going to be like Moby Dick vibes at the beginning, but then it turns into something quite different. A solid read. Not one of my favourites, and I preferred Around the World in 80 Days, but still very good. And then the final book I have is the Kammerzov Brothers. This is fat. With a PH. Fat. I did not realise how long this book was going to be, but of course it is a Russian book, and the Russians just had so much to say, and it was really cheap, and so I bought it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it maybe helped you find your next read, just by me kind of explaining what each of these books was about. When I heard these books being described by other people, they made me want to buy them, and so I have. I want to just reiterate that I feel very, very privileged and lucky to have been able to buy this many books and to stack up my bookshelves in this way, but it's all thanks to you guys watching the channel, so I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!